folks. Welcome back to the iHealth channel, iHealth Radio, with your host, Hurricane H. New day, new show. Great guest. We got to talk into biohacking today, and we might even touch on some red light therapy, which is the thing of these days, and that's the wave of rejuvenating. And so we'll touch on all our stuff here with my guest, who is a multi-award winning filmmaker, an investigative health journalist, and a power voice of the world of natural healing. I mean, he's a biohacker. He's been on top podcasts like Ben Greenfield's. I mean, he's got a good following in all social media. I mean, he is, he's really the legit guy to talk about biohacking here. And I have the honor and the privilege of having him with me. So all the way from actually La Isla del Encanto, right? Puerto Rico, Jonathan Otto. Jonathan, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you so much for having me, brother. I appreciate it.
Listen, I mean, I know it's been a journey to get us on, and we've been trying to, make this schedule happen, but we did, and you're here, and you know what? That's it. The rest is history. Let's bring it to the world. I mean, your world is just amazing. I'm gonna start, just as always, with a little bit of background and kind of how do you get into like the investigative health journalism? I mean, that's in its own, a path. What got you in there, and then let's take it from there to the health and the breakthroughs and all the biohacking that you can share with us.
Yeah, absolutely. So I started in the arena of humanitarian work, ranging from human trafficking to poverty, global poverty development. In Africa, Asia. I started working for a group called World Vision, a non-government organization, from the age of 17, and so when I originally became an ambassador for them, I traveled to Tanzania, learned a lot, and I wanted to make sure that, like, after school, high school, I went into areas that I felt like I could develop my skills to be able to help people, and that I could help uncover issues. And I ended up doing a couple of degrees that had journalism and education as the focal area. And after graduating there, I kept doing a lot of research and investigation into various issues. I'd plan and conduct my own trips to Mozambique and Mongolia and other places to like look at world issues and how could they be solved. And so my mind was naturally going this direction, and I was trying to find real solutions to the world's biggest problems, and if it related to people suffering, and then I wanted to find a solution for it. So that was always the mindset there. Fast forward, like you look at 11 years ago, I had connected with a group called The Truth About Cancer and become a producer for them, and that's where I started connecting with people like Robert Kennedy Jr. and others, and most importantly, the collection of hundreds of doctors and various experts in the medical arena and health and preventing and halting the progression and even putting cancer in remission. I learned all about these things, and it blew my mind. And I started developing deep and important friendships in those arenas and strategizing with them. So fast forward to today. With that investigative background, and based on the fact that results are the things that speak. So, if you had someone with several letters behind their name, and then you had another person, whether they had a lot or a little or none at all, and then you gave them a person and say, well, like let's say if you could split that person into two duplicates of themselves and say, okay, both of you guys go for it and help this person. I think the reason why I became one of the people that a lot of medical doctors sought after to help them understand how best to treat their patients with certain challenges was to do with the fact that I was able to crack the code on different things and research and find different solutions. And ultimately, because when I kept applying the knowledge that I would find and accumulate, and I would the results spoke for themselves. And so because of those results, then I became a leader in that field. And so you'll see a lot of the guests that I have on or the shows that I'm a guest for are medical doctors that ask me to come and educate their audiences, and then you watch their eyes kind of open during it, like, okay, I didn't realize that these things work this way. And but it goes both ways. I learned so much, and so it's a great two-way street that we can learn and grow from each other. And we're getting amazing results for all different types of conditions, and that's what's the wonderful news that we have today to bring to the world.
Impressive stuff, man. It's pretty powerful stuff. I'm just listening to you, and I have too many questions in my mind right now. Like, where do I start? But really, I mean, just the journey that you had and going throughout the world and really discovering the real thing. I mean, there are places where things are dire, right? They're just not having a good time, especially health wise. I mean, we complain about the healthcare system in the U.S., for example, right? And it's not the best, but there's some good and bad, about it. But you go to other parts of the world. You mentioned Africa, Mongolia, and other parts of the world. I mean, things may not be exactly how we see them, and you've seen some the key things out there and some of the real frontline business that maybe the regular media is not really going to show us. I mean, maybe sometimes they throw in a little bone to us here. There's something going on where it's really like media worthy, but in general there's a lot of stuff going on nobody cares about, nobody talks about, and nobody needs to share with the world because it kind of changes the visual, right, and how people will react, and creates a little bit more of a a revolution, if you want to call it, in the healthcare discussion, right? So, if you don't mind, some of the things that you've seen out there. I mean, like, what are some of I guess, the trends that are literally happening outside of the U.S. or maybe the more advanced world in healthcare? I mean, just the basic needs that are out there, or basic diseases that we might not even hear about that people are suffering from day in day out. And then we can go into the deep dive with the heavy stuff, the cancers and all the major
Mhm.
things that you've talked with experts and you yourself, are talking about in your interviews.
Yeah, sure. So you're asking about the conditions that are being helped with the therapies that are not used in the United States, but that are effective. Is that the question?
Well, so that would be the follow up. I mean, really, like, just what the condition that you've seen and explored out there that you've really
Yeah.
been, literally in face of in real time
Yeah.
and real, as you were doing the investigative stuff and being on the field.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, sure. So everything, right? So any imaginable dysfunction, like there's 75,000 different diagnoses. Did you know that?
Oh
75,000
boy.
different diagnosed conditions, diseases that exist that have been categorized. 75,000. It's a sham. It's a whole smokescreen. It's not real. It it's not real.
I'm sorry, my eyes are doing exactly what you said. It's 75,000. Is that, am I getting that right? That's
Yeah,
the
that's
number.
right. That's right. So, arthritis is one, breast cancer is one,
Yeah,
depression
well,
is
those are the
one,
top tens, but I
bipolar.
mean,
So keep going for 75,000. Then you've got to the list of all conditions that exist that are diagnosable, that have an allocation of medications that are the correct and pathway of treating said disease. It's a sham for multiple reasons. But I'll come back to that because I want to answer your question. Here in America, in Australia, in every corner and crevice of the earth, we'd seen all kinds of things, and I was there in Kenya last year, and so firsthand, one of the things that was really awesome. I won't get censored for saying this. This one's pretty cool. A deadly scorpion bite with a 14-year-old, and I I wasn't near any medical facilities. I explained to her why her own urine would be the antidote, and it would give her the specific antivenom that her body needed, and that she should soak her foot in it and drink it. And I used a couple other things as well, like nicotine. And anyway, this young woman, a 14-year-old, came right out of it. She was fading fast, and she was, because I didn't have any. Medical equipment or colleagues to perform any medical procedures, etc., or hospitals, because we were out in Takana, a very regional area. But she was declining fast from what we could see, me and my colleagues that are also in the medical arena. But she came right back like within hours, as if nothing happened to her, bouncing around on her feet the next day when she was working at the hotel that we were staying at, this like small hotel. But like so that's an example. But then HIV and seeing all these conditions, like even 20 years ago in Tanzania, and then seeing like parasitic based diseases and how they would affect people, and blindness caused by various sources, and all kinds of different cancers, tumors, and blood related cancers in elderly and young children and babies. I'm not a clinical medical doctor, and these are the guys that are seeing this every single day. But I've seen certainly a wide range of conditions, and in various parts of the world.
I mean, I'm listening to you. I mean, the numbers are crazy. The diagnoses that you just mentioned, and even like what you're talking about, it's things that you don't even think about. I mean, a scorpion bite. I mean, right? It's a sting, right? That's not something that the average American will even worry about, right? But you have
Mm-hmm.
people that are out there that are facing these natural things that are available. I mean, we might have rattlesnakes, some parts of the desert here somewhere, but it's not your common thing. And but I mean, it sounds like a Survivor, episode here. One of those where you have to actually be like MacGyver in the woods and making it happen. This whole thing about urine, right? We've heard that story with jellyfish, right? You say you might use it. I mean, there's a lot of skeptics on that, but it's funny that you said that it worked. I mean, you've used a couple of things that are really, I guess, bio have happening to you, like ready. It's available, readily available to you,
Mm-hmm.
without any medical supplies. I mean, I have to say, I mean, you know what? I want to be with you when something bad happens because we have a better time, at least a survival there. But I want to say thank you. I'm sure that that girl is grateful
Um,
to
that's
you and
beautiful.
being there. I mean, because a couple hours later, if you weren't there, maybe she would be part of this world
It's
today.
possible. Yeah, it is very possible, and likely from what the locals told us. Yeah. Thank you. That's really sweet and kind. And it's funny. Like, okay, so there I is in the there I is. There I was in the in a remote part of the world where the financial means are limited, etc. And then Dorado Beach is where all the multi-millionaires, billionaires live here in Puerto Rico, and so I get calls from friends out there too, and they don't get any special treatment. So what do I tell them to do? Same thing I'll tell these people to do out in the middle of nowhere that don't have a penny to their name. So I got people that have had all kinds of things go wrong, and they're doing urine therapy, drinking their urine, putting from like I'm thinking about a particular scenario of some of the people from Dorado Beach that were getting help. But I remember just recently being at an event, and I'd explained the science behind urine and why it's actually a medicine and why we got lied to about it, and for anyone that's listening to this, it was
Well, I'm
surprising that
intrigued. Go for it.
yeah.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
surprising, well, not surprising to me that the highest net worth individuals in the room were the most quick to do it. And the reason is because if I could explain to you a couple pieces of science behind it, and somebody would say like, "Oh man, that's just crazy. They obviously got brainwashed." But Ben Greenfield said the same thing. If you listen to the podcast with him, he said you have what you've said makes this make complete sense to me from a medical perspective, and I'm going to do this now, but people are going to make fun of me by saying that I was convinced by you. And I said, but that's not the truth. It's not that you were convinced by me. You were convinced by the biology of it, the fact that this lines up, and it's so clear to any reasoning mind that you've been completely lied to about this. And he said, no, well, thank you for saying that, because he has that scientific background, and he's a very sharp mind, and kind of cross references, understands how the body works, and so he's not a fool to be suckered in by something. But yeah, there's reasons why this is working, and it's outperforming any other therapy. There are many reasons, and one of them is stem cells, and so you could get 100 million stem cells from your urine. From a 24-hour urine sample, and this was an NIH-funded study that came through the Wake Forest University, and an adult male will have, it was particularly done on males, but you could assume the same for females, but an adult male will have 140 stem cells in a 24-hour urine sample, but when left to sit or age for 3 weeks, in this case, in this study, in an airtight flask, a couple of parameters, but it proliferated at a rate of 1 times 10 to the power of 8 in a 3-week period, so it equated to 100 million at the end of the 3-week mark. So that's just one example of, the other side of the antibody is the fact that the body produces antibodies through urine, and so a lot of people are kind of getting they're missing the mark with functional medicine, and functional medicine doctors don't really understand what I'm talking about in almost all settings, but they're running so many different types of equations to try to solve a problem. So they'll first have a couple of guesses to see what tests they think they should run. So now they could easily fail at this point. What if they made the wrong assessment and they should have run some other tests? So now, if they get the right if the test actually works, like they often don't, like a parasite test often show up negative when they're positive, and but let's imagine that it did give the right information. Now you've got to then prescribe something. Now you've got to hope that that substance could be absorbed by your body and will be effective, and then let's see at any point there could be failure, and if any point there's a failure there, then the therapy doesn't work. Urine therapy is a unique prescription that's immediate and it's bioavailable. It's actually it's already been distilled by the body, and the body has that in a bioavailable form, and so it's your unique pharmaceutical prescription, from everything from a hormone profile. You'll have all your hormones in your blood. You'll have all your neurotransmitters in your blood and in your urine. So everything that's in your blood will be in your urine. So all your hormones in your urine, all your neurotransmitters, serotonin, dopamine, epinephrine, all in your urine, and more importantly, all the enzymes that you need are in your urine, like urokinase. That's why so many medications are made from derivatives from urine and extracts from urine, and whether it's Premarin, pregnant male urine, which is for inflammation, or whether it's urokinase, which is the enzyme that breaks down blood clots, and cancer, which is a drug, but it's naturally in urine, and you keep going. There's murine, which is for eyes and ears, and that's a synthetic form of urine called carbamide, and mixed with hydrogen peroxide, which is also in urine, for the ear infections, eyes. Urine is the only thing that's ever been in your eyes because you consistently urinated in the womb, and I'll explain that in a moment. But that's the reason why I'm seeing people get eyesight improvements. And I've seen cases, and many times this is like this, where people with severe myopia will drop a point every month. So they'll go down from a 10 to a 9 to an 8 to a 7 to a 6 to a 4, like on a month-to-month basis by putting urine in their eyes. And that shouldn't be a shock to people, because they should look at the fact that the best eye doctors are using amniotic fluid to put in the eyes. But what is amniotic fluid? Drum roll, baby urine. So there you go. So it shouldn't be a shock. And so. Yeah, and then there are no toxins in urine. That was the biggest lie ever told. So there's none, and I can prove that. And so then somebody would say, "Well, look, dummy, I've got a blood test, a urine test that shows. Look at my high levels of mercury and lead and these other toxins that are in my urine. So I clearly have them in there." And I'd say, no, you're not looking at what you think you're looking at. You're looking at metabolites. They're different. You're looking at an aluminum or a lead or a mercury antidote. That's what you're looking at, because, and I can show you why we can prove this. So a baby in a womb starts urinating from 6 weeks to 8 weeks is when that urine goes through its nose and its mouth and forms the lungs of the baby. So, and it makes sense now. You understand stem cells in the urine. Okay, well then that makes sense, because the stem cells are in there and they're in a substance that is very absorbable. And so the urea, it goes straight back into the skin, and then it'll deliver the stem cells. That's why it's in the expensive skincare products, urea, right? So it's from urine. Well, keep working this out, and you start working out what's going on. But then, at such a critical phase of life, you would hope that somehow the mother, the toxins that she's exposed to aren't going to the baby, and that the placenta could filter that out, and unfortunately it can't. And this is why of the 400 chemicals that were tested for, 287 were found. Of those, 180 are proven to cause cancer, birth defects, and brain deformations. Tell me how it's possible, how that many chemicals can go through the umbilical cord. Now the baby urinates, where it dumps its waste. Now it drinks it. It's urinating every 1 to 3 hours. It's drinking hundreds of milliliters of urine per day. Tell me, when it then drinks it and then it compounds the waste again, puts it out through the urine, now drinks its waste again, compounds it again through the urine, keeps getting it pumped through the umbilical cord. How would the baby survive? It's not possible when it's growing, when the stem cells are attaching and forming. It's just, the whole thing is a lie. These are metabolites. They're signaling molecules like peptides, and it's filtered blood that's gone through the kidneys, and that's why it's a filtration system. It's actually the purity of the blood. That's why the medical name is plasma ultrafiltrate, plasma blood ultrafiltered. It's ultrafiltered blood. what it does is it's giving you a signaling molecule. And those markers that people are looking at, they're in extremely small amounts. Even if you're mercury poisoned, they're extremely small amounts. So it's not even enough to do damage if it were the unique substance, but it's a metabolite though, and it's different and it's non-harmful, and that's what we see in the womb, and we see it in people that do their lab work before and after doing urine therapy. Their metals levels go up for a moment because they're aggravating the issue, but then they go down, and they go down dramatically, like they're doing heavy metal chelation by drinking their urine. So there you go.
I mean, I think everybody watching or listening right now is like, "What? They're dropping everything." Like, whoa! I mean, you mean to tell me I can just have urine saved? I mean, I dump that shit every day. Sorry about that, but
Yeah.
every day I just dispose of it. Might as well just have a container and have it there and have it ready for one of those days when you need something to kind of biohack your body. And I mean, and all we've been hearing is like, that's waste, that's dangerous, it's poisonous, it's toxic, blah blah blah, all the other adjectives, whatever you want to call attributes to it, right? And as you said, I mean, you're talking about like the markers in the urine, that's what they test for. But as you said, I mean, typically they're looking for antibodies for to see like if you have any disease or anything, and that's a signal. But I mean, anyone with a little bit, but I mean, I'm not an expert. I have some biology background, but and doing this, I'm learning more and getting more expertise, through my resources and guests such as yourself. You can see that value, as you said. I mean, like, hello. I mean, now we have to look. I mean, we have to start selling this stuff for money. I mean, it's expensive stuff, and it's available to everybody. I mean, like, you can run out. I mean, if you drink, you're gonna have urine. I mean, just think about it this way, like, that's your little potion to go. I mean, someone's like, Hurricane, did you lose the cap here? Like, no, I didn't. I mean, I just can see the value here, and obviously, Jonathan, you've tested this, you've worked with it,
Yeah.
and you have the backing for it. But it is an interesting thing, Jonathan. I'm sure you get a lot of critics and pushback. I mean, I'm not sure. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But I'm pretty sure there's some level of some resistance out
Oh
there,
yeah, yeah.
because you're almost challenging the status quo of like what it is that is curing versus what this is like a hoax. It's like some sorcery business, like in the mid ages, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly, but it was actually all of the established cultures that we know of, whether it was Egyptian, Roman, Greek, and Indian, Chinese. They were all doing urine therapy, right? And Native Australian, Aboriginal, Native American. And they were doing urine therapy. So it just keeps going, and so this obviously got lost, and cultures that are associated with longevity, and then population booms like India, for example. You see these examples, China, and when you understand that urine was used during the bubonic plague, the Black Death. By the Jews, because they also had sanitation laws. So between those, it makes sense why. Like, because if you get an acute infection, if your body will produce not only anti-venoms, all types of anti-poisons, antibacterial agents, antifungal agents, and that's why it's used. Like, you use it on athlete's foot, or you can use it on acne. And like, even if you watch the videos where I get a lot of hate and all that, which is all good, I don't care. But you'll see a lot of people writing in saying, "Okay, just heard this. I've had acne for 30 years, and I put it on my face. 3 days later, it's gone. I don't have it anymore. I know, like, we're all talking about this. My kids are now knowing about it, and they're telling their friends, and so you can't stop this fire. And I don't care. People are just repeating a story when they're saying, "Oh, it's a waste product. You're so dumb. What an idiot." And when people go straight into mockery, you know that they've missed the mark because you haven't even considered it. And so you should know, if you go straight into mockery while you're watching this, and a lot of people aren't watching this far to go into mockery, so you guys are the cool guys. But if you're going into mockery, even then you just know that you're out of the fight, because you're not even using your mind at that point. You've gone into, it's actually judgment. Once you go into judgment, your whole reasoning is clouded, and that's how they set you up against this, and they've weaponized you against your own medicine. And so, like, the average person has about $5 million worth of stem cells per year. So what do I do? Like, 20,000 at a cost for 100 million. You can produce that every single day of the year. So between 5 and 7 million, depend on how many of those are telomerase positive. It's about 75%. So 5 million is conservative. So $5 million worth of stem cells. How do I stop people from being healthy and make sure they need my medications? I need to weaponize them through disgust, make it so disgusting for them, indoctrinate them since they're children. After 9 months of, or about 8 months of consuming their urine continually, as soon as they exited the womb, they were told that that was disgusting, and you were, and I was. And then when it got on your hand, you'd say, "Oh yuck! How could I have touched this?" And Meanwhile, this is the organ that God gave you to make love to your spouse with. So to put your dirty organ in somebody else, as a man, that is my wife. I'm making love with her with our two dirty organs, and then we now somehow procreate. Life comes from these organs that produce life and death, and then the baby is suspended in its urine for 8 months plus, and. Okay, so either I've got the wrong story and I've been lied to, or God got it wrong, or evolution, just somehow printed this wrong, but it works. And so I ain't changing the program that works. I'm just rewriting the programming in my mind. That's what I'm doing.
But I'm listening to you, Jonathan. So I'm gonna just cross the barrier here and talk a little bit. People maybe discuss it, but I don't think there's a human that has not been touched by their own urine. I mean, I think naturally, if you're in shower, I mean, we have this joke about it, right? Somebody, I mean, I don't care who, where. I mean, if you think that it didn't happen to you, maybe, but I think naturally it happens, right? And so you've touched, that urine, and it didn't kill you, right? I mean, let's put it this way. So,
Mm-hmm.
but I love what you said that there's a narrative that is actually anti this, because I mean, this is too easy to actually, well, it's like a cure for almost everything, right? Or at least it's a good way to get rid of a lot of the obvious stuff. And certainly it's going to be anti all the other processes out there and all these systems and all the medication and all stuff. So it kind of makes it a little bit critical to put a good visual that's ugly. And I love what you said, and you made it as natural as possible. I mean, listen, we are here today. I mean, maybe we live in the last 60, 70 years of modern medicine, but, to your point, all these generations before us and nations have survived long term for us to be even here. If they didn't survive, we wouldn't be here today, right? But they did it the old way. They did it the old school. They used all the different holistic and natural, whatever they had at their disposal, and they made it work. And otherwise, humanity would have ended a long time ago, and we
Mm-hmm.
cool, right? That's it. No, nobody will be criticizing and mockery and going crazy. And by the way, you're right.
Yeah.
I think to that point of people just going on show and just kind of putting hate and all this stuff. Here's the thing. I always say this: if you don't like what you see, you don't have to make any comment. Just go ahead and just don't watch us, right? Or listen, right? That's one. But also just give everything the benefit of the doubt. I mean, what you got to lose? I mean, do some studying, reverse it. I mean, what do you call it? Investigate. Do what you have to do. Do a research on things. And if you don't like it, what's the worst case? I mean, you might gain something, or at least you learn something, and then you can laugh it off if you want. But that's the thing. Like people, as you said, they don't want to. It's like because it doesn't make sense to them, because then it's like, what are you talking about, dude? And that's
It's
really it.
offensive. Yeah, exactly. It's offensive to have their narrative questioned, and so, but you shouldn't be offended by anything. That's the thing. You shouldn't be offended by everything. Well, everything and anything. It's just so dangerous to get offended by things. I've really trained myself out of getting offended by things, because it's such a negative way to live, and without you realizing, and it also shuts you off from so many opportunities, so many adventures, so many people that you actually probably could have become closest of friends with, but you were too quick to judge something, and then that shuts that down. Or some a relationship, there's a hiccup in the road, like my wife and I have been through it all with our marriage. It's not easy, and so we both could have called it quits a long time ago. But it's like you got to train yourself out of making those quick jumps to just like call the shots and cut somebody off. And the same thing is true with information, knowledge. This is a blessing. It's a gift. It's a gift to be able to have this conversation. Thank God for free speech and freedom of conscience. The fact that you can think what you want to think without being penalized in this environment. And even, yes, we are penalized on platforms, but essentially at this point in time, those that are listening to this, and most people in the Western world, are not having to undergo that. There are people in many countries right now that don't have those freedoms. But I love what you said before, as well, Hurricane, about the fact that these societies that came before us are the reasons why we exist today, and the fact that if once you research it, that was their medicine, you can either do one or two things. You could say, "What idiots!" and isn't that so dumb? Like they used to do like all these dumb practices, like drilling skulls to do, but that's not even true. Like were weird and diabolical people that were doing those types of things. That wasn't mainstream. That wasn't a very common type of medicine that went through the centuries. They were just sick people that did weird things in history. But in terms of what's the medicine that stood the test of time, that was used and used effectively, and the answer is urine was used. You can even see research on German kings during the 14th century using urine therapy to treat cancer, and they would even have them on specific diets like cabbage. They would eat just cabbage, and the urine was more specifically helpful. And which cabbage is a cruciferous vegetable, and he's actually right. It's so fascinating that a 14th century king from Germany worked that out. You can read about that on an article on PubMed called "Urine Through the Centuries." But that, to discredit your ancestors is actually a very disrespectful thing to do, and to basically like treat them like they were dumb when they actually did know a lot and they survived far more than most of us have ever had to go through. And I'm talking about all the human ancestors that have led us to this point. So one of the biggest dismissive and kind of a product of our time is to discredit our forebears, our forefathers, and to take them for granted for what they knew. And meanwhile, you have these interesting narratives like, piss heads was how the British got called, but they had scurvy, so they're using urine therapy for scurvy, and so hence why piss heads, because they would drink the urine. And so you got lots of these kind of things showing up in history, which are fascinating, but fun to chat about. And Hurricane as well. I think that our conversation around red light therapy will like segue perfectly if you're interested in that, because we can kind of show that correlation.
Definitely, we'll go right there. So, but I just wanted to just add something. I mean, you talked about really it's a simple concept of open mind. I mean, you everything you listen to, you should have an open mind too. You either learn from it that a fact that is wow, or you can learn that maybe it's not working, and that's okay. Either way, you're learning, right? So there's no reason why to reject a discussion. And frankly, the other thing is people are willing to take any powder, any cream, anything that is sold to them with all the chemicals that they know they're wrong, and they put them on their skin and their face and drink the pills and all the stuff just to cure something. Well, there's a natural process maybe that it can be used, and then simple as that. Like maybe like how we have that kiss, keep it, simple, stupid. Sometimes the simplest things are the easiest things, are the best thing in this planet, right? And then we
Mm.
should, But again, so I listen. I think we've urinated today long enough about it. But you know what? The
I love
bottom
it.
line, it's a fun thing. And by the way, folks, again, open mind, uh, investigate. If you're not sure, do your due diligence. I mean, really research things. Now let's talk. I mean, we that's natural biohacking right there, in a way. But now there is that
Totally.
trending, thing that's going on, and I see those two panels behind you. So,
Mm.
so I'm assuming there's something there.
Yeah, exactly. Um,
Oh,
we're
there you
talking.
go. There
Yeah,
comes the red light.
yeah, yeah. So it's look, red light is something that people ought to know about. And like we talked about stem cells and urine and things like this. And one or two things, people would be like, oh well, I'm not listening to this guy. But then the other person says, well, hold on a second, he's actually got some science and some backing behind this. And he's you know treats the opportunity to to be able to have a dialogue with in this sense a new audience, and then share therapies that people can access for free, and to change their lives. And red light is something that you can access for free by getting sunlight and then sunrise and sunset. And so, but the benefits in using a panel is that you're able to get a higher irradiance. So you get much higher power delivered straight into your cells at a close proximity. Typically, I'm saying like 3 inches, but the studies are almost unbelievable. And Hurricane, I think that a lot of the people that talk about this haven't maybe either dug into or don't want to talk about all the benefits for all different types of diseases, including cancer. And so this is a very established treatment for cancer and autoimmune disease. And in fact, the Nobel Prize was won back as early as 1903 by Niels Finsen for lupus vulgaris being reversed through light therapy. And so it's not new, and it wasn't even new then. Again, it's something that our forebears knew. They were using light therapy for the body, for alleviating disease and wellness. But so from everything from eyesight. So for example, there's really not a supplement or a diet that I could put you on where I said, hey, look, just do this for 3 minutes, and let's test your eyesight immediately and find out whether you got any improvement. And then if I recorded a 17% improvement in your eyesight, then that would be like a miracle cure. But that's exactly what's been discovered. That exact result has been studied with red light therapy. And if you're younger, it was up to as high as 47%. And these were in very short periods of time. I'm not talking about people doing red light therapy for months and for years, and then thinking about the progressions and the changes that you can have. The red light studies on thyroid disease are remarkable. You're talking about very poorly conducted studies, not because they weren't following correct procedures, just because they didn't do red light the way that I would tell people, look, this is the best way to do it. For example, and anyone could get this. So like, here's a 9 month follow up. So rewind. So 5 weeks, 10 sessions, 2 sessions per week, then off it. Now tested 9 months later. So that's not a lot of therapy, and you've given a lot of time to go by for those results to decline. So these were hypothyroid cases, and these were all needing Synthroid, or the origin is levothyroxine. Half the group don't even need it at all anymore. 47% no longer need levothyroxine, which could have been way higher. It could have been, I would argue, as high as 100% if they had them on it more regularly and continued, up the 9 months instead of just doing it twice a week. And so what had happened is they did this in a facility, hence the use of at-home devices. But they measured other aspects in another study, which was showing that their body mass index had remarkable improvement. So their body had become thinner, the hip to waist ratio, the circumference, all these things had improved. Dementia studies, depression studies, the whole spectrum of autoimmune disease, from MS to arthritis to gut-related issues, knowing that the gut responds very well to light. So the microbiome is sensitive to light. So you don't hear about that often. That's a great study right there. And so the studies, even with depression, because imagine doing something, then you tested your brain and did some robust depression score testing. Within an hour, you've got improvements. Then 2 hours after, then even greater improvements, and it has a compounding effect. And so the benefits, like, let's say if you're in front of it for 20 minutes and then you go away for the next 24 hours or 48 hours, the effects are still being seen in your blood. They continue. That's what we're seeing in these clinical studies, like the red light study done on breast cancer. They irradiate the triple negative and non-triple negative breast cancer origin cell lines with 4 different wavelengths: 615, 630, 660, 730. 660 drops it after they radiate it, which is the word, even though it sounds like bad, like radiation, but they irradiate it, and then 24 hours they test it. 40% drop in the proliferation of breast cancer breast cancer cells. They're flattened out, like showing cell senescence, which is the cells are dying. This is on PubMed. You look up the study, 40% drop in breast cancer, 660. Put those words in, first thing will come up, and you can see the study yourself. In vitro study, prostate cancer, 413 participants, half of them go into remission. It's a European study, 413 participants, as I mentioned, published in Lancet Oncology. It was a VTP. It was a form of red light therapy, and as a vascular type, but they were using a photosensitizer to help activate the light. The one that everyone knows about now is methylene blue. Curcumin, berberine can be used. They use the deep sea bacteria. How weird is that? That's the only study I found that used that particular compound. But the control group that didn't take red light, only 13.5% of those were in remission in the 2-year period. But 49% were in remission at the 2-year mark for the red light group. So 13.5 times 4 lands you right around the 49 mark, which shows you that it was close to a 400% increase, 4 times greater likelihood of beating prostate cancer. These people were generally doing surgery, radiation, and chemo, or some combination of those. So this also did make that result less than what it would have been. I would argue because if you did other natural therapies and less invasive therapies, I do have a problem, generally speaking, with chemo. I think that it should be used with insulin potentiation therapy, if it's being used at all. And obviously, lots of people have seen their loved ones die from chemo, so it's not like it needs any more advocates. It needs, and it's not that it's cheap either. If 300,000 to 1.3 million dollars is what it's going to cost you for your cancer treatment, you've got to pay the 10%. So that's going to wipe a lot of people out just like that. So yeah, there you go.
Well, there's a lot of factors there, and you're touching on a, as you said, as natural as it gets. I mean, if you even history, we talked a little bit about history, right, and ancestor, but if we all know that the people that lived in, let's say, the farms and the villages, right, they woke up early and they kind of got exposed to all this stuff. Somehow they lived longer, healthier, and stronger, vitality of life, right? I mean, it just that's what we've always thought. I mean, when I was a kid, that's what I've heard. Like, hey, people in the suburbs, they're healthier than people in the city. They get to eat, fresh. They get up early. They always energize the stuff. And one of the I think the key things that I actually just to my search is that they all kind of woke up around, as you said, sunrise time. Because that's really what it happened. I mean, they got early, they got out in the field early, just to beat, I guess everything, and early risers. And we hear those expressions, but we don't practice those expressions. And so that just, again, to your point, and a lot of studies are leaning towards that, towards red light therapy and what it does. And by the way, there's even some religious, piece to that as well. And we don't want to go there, but there's even religious discussions about how that time of the day is important, and it's physically important, not spiritually. And so there's that part. But really, you're talking about some extraordinary results and really fascinating numbers. I mean, just to hear. I mean, as thyroid, cancer, prostate, all these things are pretty much today's problem, right? That's really what we have in this world in terms of disease. I mean, we talk 75,000 of them diagnoses, but these are like the top, tier ones, right? This is like almost everyday story. Everybody knows someone who has one of those, right? That's living with them. I mean, with at least the thyroid is very common, especially
Mm-hmm.
in women, right? Listen, my wife has thyroid problems.
There you go.
My mother-in-law has problems, with it. So it's something that is natural. It's happening. Well, it's not natural. There's facts why it's happening, but you know what I mean. I mean, thyroid is part of us, but there's a lot of stuff. I mean, we are exposed to toxins every day that actually really hinder our hormone function, right? And so therefore you have these problems. But red light is available, and I think we've come a long way from like the early red light to, as you said, now you have these panels, beds, all kind of technology that's available, that's handy, and I think fairly accessible to everybody, whether at home or outside in a particular clinic or whatever. It's coming, but it's not very trendy, I would say, or like it's not really the thing yet, right? We want to make it the thing because really, just like there was a time where the UV, beds where you go and get some tan, right? That's the cool thing, right? You come in, you kind of cook under the sun, and you leave, right? Well, now it's the same thing without the harm, risk, right? You just go in, and I've been told by expertise here, before even this show, that this is one light that can unhurt you even if you wanted to. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, is that a true statement?
Yeah, I would say it. Yeah, I want to see somebody do it so I can see. Okay, yeah, no, here's the limit right here. But technically, like if you were working out in front of it and you were doing more than you could do, normally without the light, then you're going to feel it later because you did way more than what your muscles were ready for. I've seen that happen. It's possible that you could have a little bit of swelling if you were on it for like 4 hours or something, but it doesn't mean that you didn't do a whole lot of good by doing that. But generally, I wouldn't tell people to do that long just because you could have a little bit of swelling because you may be triggering some deep healing processes all at once very quickly. And so but I could be wrong. And I just actually heard in a case where the guy he couldn't move his shoulder up. It was just I heard it today, and he used actually like a red light belt. He used this specific one, and he had it over his shoulder for the whole day, which we never tell people to do that. The whole day. I'm not telling people to do that, but the next day he complete fluid movement, and his family were amazed. He's getting married this weekend. He's I haven't met him, but he's his wife to be, Avery, she just talked on this Flyover Conservatives podcast show that's quite popular. and she's the daughter of the talk show host, and her digestive issues got resolved with her using that and one of these panels, and menstrual issues resolved, and she had a lot of stuff going on. She had a lot of pain, and so she doesn't have it anymore. And she's getting married this weekend, so I kind of got a bit emotional when I heard that because, I know what that future looks like because I see it all the time. I don't even think they realized how big that what that future looked like. I don't think they realize, but it's awesome. They don't need to realize they've got a better life now, so that's really cool.
But we want more of this. I mean, certainly we want more access to it and certainly make it more of a daily practice. I mean, you're right, not 4 hours, but I mean, I was told 10, 12 minutes is more
Yeah.
than sufficient to get you really going a good day. Like if you do that frequently. Now
That's what
imagine
you
you,
meant. Yeah, I was trying to. I was when you said you can't hurt yourself, and I was like, okay, what does he mean? Like, how far can you push this? And
no, no,
and
no. Yeah, but I mean, again, and you said you could do 2, 3 hours and still it's a good thing. I mean, obviously, it can have severe progress in your body. Just your body is not used to like a change that is that radical overnight, right? But certainly,
Mhm.
it can make a difference in time. Now, here's the thing. I mean, I see the panels. I think a lot of people may probably have the question like, well, is it accessible? Can I have it? I mean, listen, everybody's got some sort of a bike, a workout bike, or some sort of a tool that they have at home for like exercise, or some kit or device that they use for their beauty, right, and skincare and stuff. This should
Yeah.
be, I mean, the next thing. Like we should all have these things
Oh
available
yeah.
to us. Now the question is maybe cost is one, accessibility. Where can they get it? I mean, is it bulky? Is it? I mean, I see you're sitting there and yeah, in the studio and having a couple panels and you get nicely. By the way, you talk about it's not radiation, is irradiating with light, so it's kind of different. I mean, even radiation is what is it? I mean, laser, for example, light amplification by simulation and emission of radiation. So I mean, the acronym kind of speaks about it. So this is just another type of light that we get, I guess, exposed to, right? And you have it now. I mean, I want to make this comment. I mean, I'm looking at you right now. I mean, you do look good. I mean, I have to say. I mean, so whatever you're doing in your biohack, it looks good and it's working.
Thanks,
So,
man.
I mean, it's that thing. I mean, some people talk, but you're doing something that's working somehow. I'm sure you do all the other stuff. You do good. I mean, I know I've done some work on you, and your bio is pretty extreme. You do a lot of stuff, and you're into biohacking and everything, and it makes a difference. I think that's a new generation. I think we all have to be aware of what biohacking is, and that we all have access to a lot of stuff and tools. It may not be conventional, and it will certainly make a difference in our lives. To your point, it can slow the aging process, or at least the cell aging. It kind of rejuvenates your body, it gives you the energy, all kind of stuff. Now let's talk about the device or the panels. Is that one
Yeah.
unit? Is that a couple units?
Yeah, exactly. These are different units, and when you said accessibility, they are like because I mean, in short, it depends which device you got, but I'm even looking at these panels, like looking at what the monthly cost would be. It's a one-off, payment, but people can do payment plans, or if they're doing it as a one-off payment, then they should think about what that looks like on a monthly basis over the time that they're using it, and it works out to be anywhere from 10 to 50, $60 a month, over that like 2 year period, for example, depending. So that is what you'd pay for a supplement. A single supplement would typically cost like that, but you look at the benefits and you see what I rattled off there. I've got a supplement company. I'm not biased. I'm telling you, there's no supplement that can do that. There's not even a combination of a whole bunch of supplements that can do that. And light therapies are the holy grail. There's just yeah, and if you use them in combination, like if you're doing a parasite cleanse and then you use light therapy at the same time, then you're talking, because light therapy is naturally anti-parasitic as it is, and if you have those compounds that you're taking, they have activation points. So light will help to activate those plant compounds in your body and in the organs that they're congregating in. So you take milk thistle and dandelion root, they're going to aim for the liver, and then you have a red light therapy over your device over your liver. You can get that improvement. So yeah, these are examples. So I've got these actually have 9 different wavelengths in them. 9, which
Ooh,
is yes, it's unique. So it's like a full spectrum device. And so then what you have here is I can control all of that. So I can go into brightness and I can change every setting there, and I could take out the blue because there's a blue light in there intentionally that's going to work on skin rejuvenation. And but if I wanted to take that out in the evening, I can take it out. I could take out the 590 there, which is for the skin. But so you've got all that opportunity. That you've also got, so it's so people know, it's 480, 590, 630, 660, 670, 810, 830, 850, 1060. Everything from 800 up, near infrared, can't be seen by the human eye. And notice that all of these lights have both red and near infrared coming through the same bulb, because it's a dual LED. So two different wavelengths coming through the same LED, which is really helpful because it's an even spread now of red and near infrared. And then on top of that, it's concentrating double the amount of light over those key organs. So and people can learn more about this, and make a choice and get one of these devices for their home. They can get belts and hats and all these types of things, and then you're just turning on the device and getting in front of it, and you could keep all the wavelengths going on. That's what I do in the evenings. Sometimes I do take the blue out just in case, but it's pretty simple and straightforward. There's a couple of things to test for and understand. The biggest thing when you're like looking at a device is you need to know the irradiance, like how much power is it delivering, how what's the milliwatts per centimeter squared delivered, and then because once you know that, then because if it was extremely low, you wouldn't really get much benefit. And so in our case, we've pushed that to the highest that can be found, which is 205 milliwatts per centimeter squared at 3 inches from this device, for example, and 195, from this one, and a bit less from this one at 3 inches. And so that means that you're getting a really high level, but it's not too high. It's still very gentle, hence why people don't have issues. But then ideally you should be 3 inches away, bare body if you can. If you can't, then training bra, underwear if you have to. Maybe it's uncomfortability, but you'll still get most of the benefit. But it's not ideal, right? So just make your choices there, and then as little as 5 minutes a day, or even a single minute. There's great studies even on a minute of exposure. There's a Birmingham University study that showed a minute of exposure. It was a rat study, but they showed that it was regenerative of the spine. Even in that short period, it increased cell viability by 45%. So your cells were 45% more effective just with a single minute of exposure, and it was neuroprotective over brain cells. So then it's about proximity of how much people are using it. So make sure to use it at least 3 times a week if you can, if you want to get the maximum benefits, and as little as 5 minutes. But 12 minutes 3 times a week is great. 20 minutes every day is great. 30 minutes every day is great. 20 minutes to 30 minutes twice a day is great. Look at how often the sun comes out. Same. So your body can do well on that. And the other thing is EMFs. So I've got an EMF meter here. I'll put it on my computer here for a second, and it just beeped. I went up to 12, right? You saw those numbers go up. I'll put it on the device, and ready? Wait, 0.
Yeah,
Right.
that's a big one. Yeah,
Yeah.
no EMFs.
So there's no EMFs coming out of these devices, which is great. So these are the things to look for when you're like looking around, because you want to make sure you're getting the maximum amount of benefit, and that's what we've done here with this.
Wow. Well, it's funny. I'm listening to you, and I'm getting all excited about these panels, right? But then you when you talked about the value and the price, right? I mean, people spend a couple $100 on cigarettes, for example, right? Coffee. I mean, everybody's got at least an addiction of something, and even the lowest level, say coffee cup. I mean, a cup of, I don't know, a cup of Joe anywhere, Dunkin' Donuts in the States or Starbucks will be $4, maybe $5, right? Just nothing, right? And you add it up, 10 days, that's $50. That's a couple $100 a month. I think we can all afford this, right? So let's
Yeah.
be real. It's just a matter of like the priorities what we have. I mean, this is the same argument we hear a lot about gym. Well, I can't afford the gym. I mean, it's like $100, whatever. I mean, you do spend more just on one meal if you go out, right? And for those people
True.
that are addicted to, let's say, junk food and fast food, right? I don't know, a couple of people, it's $60, just eating fluff that is not nutrient, right? So you get this the whole month, and your life is improved. I mean, folks who have you're watching or listening. I mean,
Yeah.
you have to be thinking about your life, not today, forever. as long as you live, you want to live happy and healthy and with no pain and so forth. And this actually leads me to a question, Jonathan, and I know you probably have the answers to this. I mean, we've talked, for example, in different shows about CBD and marijuana and all these other things for pain management, and they do work. I mean, just listening to all the stuff you talked about and the benefits. I mean, this can just almost remove all your pain problems as well. I mean, you're talking about muscle.
Again. Yeah, no, it can. Because the pain is caused by something. Right. So what's causing that
Inflammation.
pain? Yeah, exactly. But something's causing that inflammation, because the
Mm,
inflammation is also part of the solution. So you need inflammation, but then too much inflammation is problem. And so what is driving that? Red light is going to deal with both of those sides of the issue. It's going to deal with what's actually that problem, because it's working within the cells to cause the cells. This is what I probably didn't do justice to. So the mitochondria, organelles that wrap around, or they surround the nucleus of your organ cells, not your red blood cells. These are charged with light. When they are, light is just the thing they're the most receptive to. It's the reason why your skin is translucent. You're designed to be in the sun. And we do have some issues with things that are blocking this. And I think it's actually intentionally happening as well, where they're like, and hence why, anyway, I won't go there. But then,
I know where you're
and
going, but
yeah, exactly. And then your cells now, when they get light, they'll produce adenosine triphosphate ATP. This is how cells generate energy. When cells have energy, they can then perform functions, which means all functions, which means detoxification. That would be the critical aspect. When people have pain, it's a sign of toxicity, some kind of toxicity. And the toxicity is causing a need for inflammation, which that inflammation comes with pain, but that pain is actually part of the healing. But so your pain is a sign that your body is trying to heal, and it's not actually bad, but it is bad because it sucks and it's not good. But the pain isn't the problem. The toxins that are driving this whole issue in the first place, they're the problem. And if you can deal with the inflammation by hitting that with red light, so you're quieting down the inflammation, making that more manageable, then you'll get immediate relief. But then the big play here is that the Super Bowl, the game of games to be played, is this cellular warfare that's happening, that you want to strengthen your soldiers in that war, which are the mitochondria, and they are the star players in your brain, heart, kidneys, intestines. All your organ cells are just filled with these mitochondria, thousands per cell. Depending, cerebellum brain cells have hundreds of thousands of mitochondria per brain cell. And so there's a reason why your eyes are here and your cerebellum's here, and the light, it actually shoots through, and these are gateways. Eyes are part of the brain. You're supposed to get light in through the eyes, and that's why opening your eyes for a few minutes in the morning specifically can give you such an improvement in your not only your vision, but your brain function, and then your thyroid function, because cerebellum and thyroid are connected, and they both have a high concentration of mitochondria, and there's a communication happening there. Everything's connected, but there's a very direct communication between those two processes and in the body. So that being said, yes, it will work on pain, but for many different reasons and in many wonderful and mysterious ways. And you can expect some major improvement, not just in the pain you feel, but the things that are connected to that pain, because people often have in pain, but they're also stiff, and they're also lack movement and freedom of movement, and their eyes might be sore, but their eyes also aren't working properly, and they can't see with sharpness, with the sharpness that they once had. So imagine dealing with all those problems at the same time, not just band-aiding an issue of pain, but helping the mitochondria, helping the eyes get the healing they need. Part of that is to do with the fact, and the reason why our devices work really well as the full spectrum. So I'm activating these processes that are vital in cellular respiration, which is cellular breathing. So oxygen is actually being created in the body with light therapy, because it's electromagnetic waves causing the cells to produce oxygen. And some of these processes involve and are connected to cytochrome C oxidase and nitric oxide signaling. And so that's the reason why people get eyesight improvement, because of these cellular respiration pathways. And then you're aiding each of these functions, and you're doing that at different layers in the body. So at 6:30, I'm doing it like this deep, and I'm just giving an illustration here. 6:30, I'm doing it this deep. 6:70, and it's at 8:10, 8:30. They're going at deeper levels, but all of these layers of the body need to be interfaced with, and that's why the sun is full spectrum. But LEDs, the reason why it's not a complete full spectrum, because you've got 9 wavelengths, but you could technically have 1,000, but that wouldn't make it better, because in this case, LEDs are taking 90% of the power and putting it into light, whereas incandescent halogen bulbs that model sunlight more directly, they're putting 90% of that power into heat, and only 10% into the light if you're lucky. And then the light is what the mitochondria needs. So hence why LED studies are the ones that are showing up with thousands of studies now on all different types of diseases getting turned around with LEDs, light emitting diodes, not to be confused with low quality, high flicker rate LEDs that damage your eyesight. It's a completely different thing. So, fun facts, Hurricane.
Listen, I mean, listen, we're at the top of the hour here, but frankly, I mean, this conversation can go beyond this. I know I want more, out of this conversation. I know we have a limited time, but so how can people get those particular access to the panels, and how easy can they get them in their home? And
Oh
how
yeah.
big are they? I mean, can they just be in a bedroom setting? I mean, are they
Yeah,
easy to?
absolutely. So yeah, absolutely. So size, you can see it there. So this has got a stand on it here. You can see the stand on the ground, and then you've got then this other device here. So you've got it's the RO Pro 300 Max behind me there, and the RO Pro 200 and the RO Pro 100. These are some examples. The belt, which I showed before, but you can go to myredlight.com, and I'd love to give a coupon to your viewers. Is that okay, Hurricane? Yeah,
Yeah, of
awesome.
course.
So
Thank you.
use the code Hurricane for 10% off. And so we've got some great discounts and everything on the page. And when you apply that code with Hurricane, you'll activate the price discount. You can see there on the main page. And yeah, so it super easy. We're super popular, which is a good thing. We're one of the fastest growing red light companies in America, and it's because people are getting great results and reporting them, and it's really awesome to see. But it's definitely good to get in the front of the queue and get your order while we have inventory, because we have faced that issue sometimes where we have such demand. So definitely it's worth taking action on that, getting a hold of our products and letting them change your life. And we also give some of the best support. We've got some amazing supplement bundles that come as free gifts in the packages there, and so you could use those to your advantage. And look, I think that the key is like whatever you're struggling with, whatever you're going through, you can just you'll find that red light therapy is one of the greatest tools and keys, and you could use ChatGPT and Google to push that, to see what it says on the conditions that you might be going through, and you'll find that the studies are very robust. And so use those tools and those resources. And again, it's myredlight.com, and use the code Hurricane at checkout.
Well, thank you. And it's funny. I mean, people can argue with you and me, but they can't argue with ChatGPT, right? I mean, it's really it's got all the information at its disposal. So, when someone debates with you, just like ask ChatGPT. If it gives you the answer, then I stand corrected. I think
Mm.
we're good there, right? But well, so thank you so much. I mean, for really sharing. I mean, we started with all the adventures and the discoveries and things that you've seen, out there, and how you kind of, I guess, gone into this path, and then ultimately now you are serving the world by providing nutrition and supplements, as well as a solution for everyone to actually stay healthier and better, and really vital, right? So I know we want to end this, but I just want you to tell us, about like maybe like a three non-negotiable biohackings, or biohacks that you use.
Yeah, awesome. I'd love to. Okay, so all right, so we've tackled a couple. So for
All
me,
right.
I actually do wake up and drink my first morning urine every day, and I have for the last 3 years. Right.
Okay.
So
All
there's
right.
there's one. There's one.
There you
So
go.
I'm getting stem cells. So like most of the audience dream of getting stem cell therapies because they're out of reach for most people. And I drink them every day. So there you go. So first one.
Nothing wrong
And
with that, man. We established that. Go for
yeah.
it.
Second one, red light therapy. So that's the non-negotiable. And then next, gluten free. gluten-free, like specifically wheat-free. I could definitely justify the ancient grains like einkorn, spelt, but the wheat gluten is a poison. Oh, what are you guys doing? Oh, thank you, man. Thank you for the tacos. Well, hey, boys, come. You did? Well, how come you guys didn't invite me?
Yeah.
Say
We
hi.
got a guest. He's like, uh-oh. Uh,
Look at these beautiful boys. Look at them, aren't they just so crazy? Come here, come here.
God
What are
bless.
you doing?
God bless.
What happened to your arms, man? You put them in your shirt? All right, so the boys
All
came to
right.
help me end off the show.
All right. Well, listen, I know you have a better, audience to attend to right now. Well, but, I mean, no offense, folks, but, that's the kids. You got to take care of your kids, right? So just, we want to make sure that's clear. Well, Jonathan, thank you so much, man, for really sharing some real good stuff and nuggets to help us. We definitely want people to actually check out the devices to get the code. I mean, really, it's not, it's affordable when you think about what we spend, on nonsense, right? So let's think that way, and you get a 10%, why not? Let's maximize that opportunity. Jonathan, thank you so much for being with us, man. Appreciate it.
I appreciate it so much, Hurricane. You said what am I going to do with those things? Well, those things that you have in your hands are for the red light panel. Okay, so these are what I used to screw in there. So that's what you were asking, right? You wanted to know what I'm going to do with these, right? That's what I'm going to do. I'm doing 3. Look, can you count them?
How
And then,
old?
how old are you, Arthur?
3.
3. All right.
When are you turning 4? Are you going to be 4 soon?
No, May.
In May.
Oh, my birthday month.
Oh,
There you go.
say
A
when's your
Taurus?
say when's your birthday, Hurricane? His name is Hurricane. Say when's
9th.
your birthday?
No.
All right. Well, if you ain't going to talk, you're kicked out. See you later, man.
All right.
Awesome, bro.
Well,
No, I
thank you.
appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
And I appreciate you saying that it's within people's reach for their sake, right? Because it doesn't make any difference to me, or it makes a difference for the person that's using it. And it's like sometimes you just got to get that over that hurdle in your mind, and it's not even a big one. It's just break through that and look at your future. Look at what your organs are worth to you. And I've seen people lose organ function. I see it all the time. And if you knew you could support your critical organs from liver to kidneys to heart to thyroid to brain, why would you not do that when you knew about it? And then you have to look back later and say, I knew about something and I didn't take action. But like, look, if you went out and you got sunlight every day and the sunrise and sunset as a result of doing this, or you even got a $10 chicken lamp off Amazon and you got in front of that, because those they have benefits. If you did that, then I'm impressed, because you're taking action. And the reason why it's why we have such an advancement in that technology is because you're dealing with 90% of that power going into light. And it's funny that after about 3 years even the $10 chicken bulb will cost you more because of the electricity bill, whereas the LEDs don't drain electricity, and then they're covering all your body. And so it's a game changer, man. And it's like, I'm actually just really grateful we live in this time, because a lot of doctors that were using light therapies for cancer, they were limited in their abilities because the advancement in LED technology hadn't happened yet. And we have that here with these devices, hence why a lot of leading therapy centers around the world are using our devices. So it's pretty cool.
Well, there you have it, folks. I mean, we're at the end of the show, and I have to say, I mean, you can't go wrong with this, folks. So I'll have all that in the description of the show. Do click in, check it out, and be better, live better. Stay healthier. I'm American H. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. We'll be talking soon. New day, new show, new topic. Bye for now.